Hi everyone, welcome into the channel, welcome to the next video, and for today we are going to be looking at the 4 commando tests that you take on at the end of training, look into my experiences and go over what I thought was the hardest and the best. But before we go into the video, I always like to ask, if you enjoy it, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you like these kind of videos, comment below any thoughts and any questions along the way, and then be sure to check out the rest of my channel after you finish this video. But for now, let's get into the video because, yeah, we can have some fun with this one. So the reason I wanted to make this video today is because I remember when I first joined up before training, I was always there thinking, oh, I wonder what the hardest one is. You know, I like to get people's thoughts, and I'm sure that there's people out there that can relate to this sort of video as well. Although those tests are a lifetime away, obviously whatever sort of place you're at the moment, and whether you're looking into it or whether you're actually in training or whatever, it is quite a long way to go until you get there. But I do feel like looking into people's experiences, getting to know what they do, you know, get to know their thoughts, it does help sort of push you along the journey as well. So looking at this, if you don't know, you might be thinking, what are the commando tests? Basically, these are the main tests that you take at the end of training to determine you getting your green lid. These are 4 pretty challenging things that basically take space in the 5 days within a week, and obviously if you fail any, you have to rerun them as well. And these come in the shape of the endurance course, the 9-mile speed march, the Tarzan Assault course, and the big old 30-miler, which you do collect your green lid at the end if you've completed all the tests. Big thing to remember when it comes to these tests, that you're not joining up and then completing these the day after training. You have got a progressive plan of 8 months of training, basically getting battered and basically getting as fit as you can along the way to make sure that you are suitably ready for these challenges to take on. Because when you get there, you've got to complete all these challenges in a short space of time, all including weight. So you have to do this with 21 pound of webbing on, plus your rifle, and then the 30-miler you do have to have a day sack with kit in there as well. And obviously with that being said, you're not going to be wearing the top of the range Nike trainers doing this either. You're going to be in military basic boots. I mean, when I was in, it was the bog standard, really old school, like leathery black boots. I'm not 100% sure if they've changed now. I think they might have done, so I can't really clarify that, but all I remember is it was a little bit harsh on your feet, but you got to grin and bear it and get to the end. And looking at my experiences, the first thing I want to highlight, and I think people are probably curious of this, and it's quite interesting, is which one did I find worse? Which one did I like the least? And I feel this can be different for pretty much anyone. So I do believe it is personal preferences, but for me, it was the endurance course. And you may be thinking, why? Why does that stand out as the worst one for me? And that's basically what we're going to go into the experiences. So first things first, let's tick it off. Day number 1 is the endurance course. Breaking it down nice and simple, what is the endurance course? So this is essentially a multi-terrain run that you've got to take on with all your kit on, going through tunnels, going through water, going over hills, and then finishing it off with a run. So you do basically an off-road section, which is about 2 miles. Like I said, that includes the dreaded sheep dip that loads of people panic about. Don't worry, it's not actually that bad. You're just blowing out your ass so you're knackered when you're doing it. Water, there's the Smarty tubes, which are like 20-foot long tubes, small little things that you've got to like nuzzle through with all your kit on. Going through the crocodile dip, which is like a water, like I suppose pond river thing that you're going through, and then obviously you're soaking wet, and then you've then got a 40-mile run back to camp. And then once you get back to camp, you've then got to complete a shoot to make sure that you're still fit to fight even though you're tired, and you have 10 shots to make, but you can basically get 6. If you get under 6, you fail, unfortunately, then you've got to redo it. So anything above 6 to 10 and you've hit the pass mark. And all this has got to be completed in 73 minutes. And for me, this was the least favourite, mainly because it's so unknown. And the multi-terrain side of it, I mean, I used to suffer quite badly with shin splints. I know I get a lot of people message me actually saying about shin splints and stuff. And I used to suffer quite badly with shin splints. Once we got to the point of the tests as well, I was suffering with a bit of a dodgy hip, but we managed to pull through it just about. And for me, it was more thinking, right, you kind of set off at a sprint because you think, I don't want to be lagging behind at any time in this course. So you never know in that 70 odd minutes actually how long you're taking. And obviously you imagine you're running up a hill, you're going through a river, you're going through a tunnel, you're thinking, You know, am I 20 minutes in? Am I 10 minutes in? You lose complete sort of like visual of time. And obviously when you get to that road, you're kind of thinking, I don't know how long that's taken me to complete this off-road course, and now I've got a full run back. And you're thinking, right, I'm pretty much just going to give it my best effort, trying to get all the way through it. I mean, when you try and think of it tactically, you do try and imagine, right, I need to be able to hit a maintainable pace, but like a good maintainable pace, and then kind of sprint towards the finish if you can. And for me, suffering with shin splints, bit of a bad hip, complete no visual of what the time was, you sort of complete the course and you don't actually know if you've passed it. That's probably the worst part, is you kind of sit there thinking, have I done it? So yeah, endurance course for me was probably the worst one, but at the same time, really, really good experience. You can do it as a civvy, I believe, not the whole shebang with the shooting and stuff, but you can do the off-road course as a civvy, and to be honest, it is good fun. But yeah, when you put it in a test environment and you've done 8 months of training to get there, and it all basically all runs down the pass in these tests, it does get a little bit more edgy. Things that people might not know is that you do test practices leading up to it. So you do get a feel for basically how it's going to go. You don't just get to that test day never ever doing the endurance course. You do give it a test, you kind of get an understanding of how hard it is, so when you get to the day, you kind of know, like, right, this is what I need to do, this is what I need to do. I believe then you move into, not a rest day, but you have your endurance course, you then have a day off, and then you do your 9-mile speed march the day after. So 9-mile speed march. Realistically, this was kind of like a tick over. I believe where you're in a group, you kind of know the pace that you have to keep to. So when you are looking at this conception of time, a bit like obviously you didn't know in the endurance course, you know if you keep up with the group and you keep up with the PTI, you know you're going to pass. So all you got to basically do is grit your teeth. You've got 9 miles to cover in 90 minutes. That's with obviously your 21 pound of webbing, your rifle, in your obviously your kit. And obviously it was like a massive test, but I do feel like it's a mental game. Same again, if your shins and that starting to hurt, anything's starting to hurt a little bit, you're trying to just push through it. By this point, you should technically be fit enough to be able to hit that standard. I think it is just that mind game that then has to take over. And I remember with this one, there's a few sections. I mean, you would start, I don't know about anyone else when they're running, but it's always that first mile. Always the first mile, which is the horrible part. And I can remember starting it and thinking, wow, this ain't gonna be easy. I was sort of like half a mile in thinking, God, this is gonna be a bit of a test. And then once you get past that sort of first mile, first sort of like mile and a half, you start to break into that pace and it starts to feel okay. There is a part of it where you do mainly stick as a group, but then you do go off terrain as well. And then I can remember that one being a bit more like, yeah, you're trying to sort of give it a bit of all guns blazing, going like off terrain, trying to keep up the pace, trying to keep towards the front, so that when you get to obviously get back into a group again, you're sort of fresh and ready to start. And this does include, I believe it was like 2 sort of water stops where you can have a drink and stuff like that, but the time is still running. So they don't stop the time and then you carry on. I believe the clock's still running, so you have to sort of get back to it and crack on. Any sort of speed march is done at a 10-minute mile pace. Obviously, if you can do a 10-minute mile pace now, that's absolutely great. But you've got to remember, doing that tired for a prolonged period of time with kit on is quite testing. For me, my experiences with the 9-mile speed march, I wouldn't say it was obviously the easiest one, because none of them were easy, but for me that was one that I just had to sort of just keep a solid mindset and push through it. So it didn't really compare to the endurance course for me. At the end of that, you do then march onto camp. You get drummed back onto camp, which, to be honest, I think that's there to kind of show that you can kind of hold composure, although you're tired, because after doing a 1.5 hour run, chances are you're going to be knackered, but you have to be able to stand there nice and strong, march back onto camp confidently. But I'm not going to lie, although you haven't passed training yet, that does give you a bit of a serious buzz. Like it's that sort of like emotional sort of like overrun. You do feel pretty proud of what you've managed to achieve so far. And then moving on to the next one, which will be day 3, and I believe this is straight after the 9-mile speed march. I don't believe there's a day break in between, is the Tarzan Assault course. The Tarzan Assault course is basically a high obstacle course that you've got to then complete. You then run down to bottom field where you've got to complete that course. You run back up to the 30-foot wall, you climb the 30-foot wall, and once you're at the top, your time stops. And this all has to be completed in 13 minutes. It's hard to kind of like explain it as such, because I don't know obviously the exact distances and stuff like this, but I mean, this is what you call a 30-minute sprint. You are running as fast as you can, 13 minutes, overcoming different obstacles, so it is not meant to be easy. Obviously, none of it's meant to be easy, but the idea is that it's a close shave as well. I don't think you're going to be completing the Tarzan Assault course with loads of time to spare, so it is get your head down, crack on, make sure that you learn the technique of all the obstacles, and then you sort of get through it. Same again, a bit like the endurance course, you do practice runs, so you're not just getting thrown into it and obviously expected to complete it with no experience, because you basically start off, you have to jump off the tower with a rope, come down on the rope, obviously no harnesses or anything like that, so don't let go because that'll probably hurt. And then you've then got to go on to the obstacle course. But yeah, I mean, all in all, the Tarzan Assault course, I mean, if you were to do that without kit and there's not a test or anything like that, it's actually really good fun. You know, getting on the high ob stuff where you're coming down, you're going over like the Jacob's ladder, you're jumping into a net, and you feel like, well, as it says on the name, you feel a little bit like Tarzan jumping around, and it is actually quite enjoyable. You then go on down to the bottom field. Obviously, if you don't know what the bottom field looks like, it's always worth checking it out. But there's certain things you have to go through tunnels, go over walls, go over monkey bars, and go over some ropes and all this sort of stuff. And for me, my experiences with that, I was actually quite shocked. I done quite well in that. I can remember doing a practice run. I can remember doing it, and actually we got told our times, and I came in sort of towards the top of the troop, which I was really quite proud about, because I've never really seen myself as a fast runner. So like 100-meter sprint, for example, I was never at that ability of being able to be the fastest runner ever, if that makes sense. So for me, I felt like the mindset definitely took over with that, because it is being able to maintain a fast pace. I've always been quite good at short, sharp stuff. If I know it's going to be 12 to 13 minutes, well, you know, even if you can get it quicker, the quicker it's done, the quicker it's over. So no matter how much it hurts, I would just go at 100% to make sure that I get it done quickly. And I feel like the Tarzan is the one that people are I think people get a little bit nervous about, because obviously the heights and stuff like that. And to be honest, something that I learned massively in the Marines, the big tip for anyone, is that don't overthink stuff, don't overcomplicate stuff. When you're looking at high obstacle things, if you go into it with confidence, the chances are you're going to be safe. If you get nervous or you start to get all like weird about it, the chances are it's going to go wrong. So it's a bit like what I said in one of my previous videos, tackle things with confidence, it's going to go a lot better, and the chances are you're going to pass it with flying colours if you happily, confidently take it on. And the Tarzan, for me, to be honest, I'll probably put it up there as one of the best. Although I was absolutely hanging out, and I can remember getting to the top of the 30-foot wall and nearly throwing up. I'm going to have to try and find it, but there was a picture of me, honestly, couldn't breathe, about to be sick, hanging over the bars at the top, trying to catch my breath back. And a hell of an experience, one that I'd love to do again, actually as more like a bit of fun, rather than in a test environment. But I'd probably put that up there as my favourite test out of the four, to be totally honest. And then moving on from that, you take it into the big one, the big 30 miler. This is the one that I think obviously the Marines are renowned for. 30 miles across Dartmoor, multi-terrain, kit on your back, no matter what weather. It's a challenge, and you've got to complete the 30 miles in 8 hours. But of what I remember when we were doing it, our corporals and our sections that we were in, I believe, had a little bet to see who could come in the fastest, and I believe we managed to do it in 7.5 hours, or just under. But same again, the quicker you're done, the quicker it's over, so it's all positive force. And how can I round up the 30 miler? For me, I think a lot of people might say that it's one of their worst ones, but for me it wasn't. Same again, it was all about mindset. You know that if you keep up with, obviously, the corporal, you keep up with the group, you know you're going to pass. So as long as you don't flag, you're going to be okay. Same again, not easy whatsoever. I was suffering, same again, quite bad with my hip. It was my left hip, was really quite hanging out. But same again, it was just, you've got to overcome those things. That, you know, there's times that if you get injuries, you obviously need to get them checked out, but halfway through your final test, you know, 10 miles into the 30 miler and your hip's absolutely screaming at you to stop, you ain't gonna stop. You do whatever you can to get through that final challenge. And to me, actually, the 30 miler, a lot of it is a blur. I can't remember that much of it, to be honest. All I can remember is in the morning, you have this massive breakfast, obviously to make sure you've got loads of energy, and then you get on the roads and start running uphill. You start running up a big ass hill at the start of a 30 miler. Think how that is going to impact your head when you're thinking, good God, I hope the whole of this 30 miler isn't like this, because it would probably be impossible. And then from that, I can just remember certain sections of looking forward and us being like, right, that's the next target, that's what we're aiming for. You know, you just slug it out across, you know, boggy terrain, across like hills and all this sort of stuff across Dartmoor. And then it was all a bit of a blur. I can remember one of our guys going down almost with heat stroke. We actually had to lay him down and pour a jerry can of water over him to make sure that he stayed cool. He actually passed, he done awesome, to be fair, very little stubborn Scottish lad, and managed to get through it. And same again, I think the big point of this is injuries are things to be made aware of, and obviously you've got to be careful, but it just shows the mentality that you get to by that point, that giving up isn't an option. Probably one of the next parts, it was towards the end, you know, you have your little food breaks along the way. I believe you get like, obviously you drink, you get like a pasty, bananas or whatever, and it's just constant energy boosts. I mean, I had bananas in my ammunition pooches, just in case I needed to get a bit of an energy top up. And I remember hitting it towards the end with, people say that you can come to hit a wall, a bit of a brick wall, and I think, yeah, it can happen. I can remember there was this one guy in my section that really started to flag towards the end. He was a good friend of mine, and you know, we didn't want to see him fail. You're all in it together, you want to push through it. And I can remember just grabbing him and dragging him. We were just dragging him through to make sure that he was going to get through it. And then we got to a point, I hit a wall, dragging him absolutely knackered me out, and then I just hit this wall. And I can remember I had Snickers, I believe it was. I had like a Snickers or a Mars bar, something like that. Quickly chewed that back, and it was just like, I always remember, I feel like that Mars bar saved me. That little energy hit managed to get me through to the finish line. And then obviously you get to the finish line, you compose yourself. Well, so you get just before the finish line, you compose yourself, make sure that you can run in nice and confidently as a troop. And then obviously you go in, tick in the box, you get handed your green lid, you get handed a drink. I opted for the bottle of port that was there rather than beer, because I don't drink beer. And it was the most amazing experience. And the rush of emotion, I think this is something that people come to say, like, you know, you're this big tough Marine, you go through all this trading and all this sort of stuff, but I don't think I've ever seen so many grown men cry in one place, getting handed your green beret. It's such an emotional experience, because I feel you've gone through all this training, you know what you've gone through. It's been horrendous. You've probably faced the biggest challenges of your life, and then you're getting handed this bit of fabric, and this is the actual one that I got handed. You get handed this bit of fabric to basically be like, you've passed, you're now a Marine, and you just think, wow, like, you do all that for this, and obviously the name to be a Marine is pretty amazing, really. An experience I'll never forget, an experience that changed my life. I would say it made me grow up so much, and turned me into obviously who I am today, which is amazing. So without prolonging the video too much, that is my experiences of the Commando tests. I would rate them best to worst. Like I said, Tarzan, probably one of my favourites, in all honesty. I'd then probably stick it in 9 Mile Speed March, second, not being favourite, but it was basically just a shorter version of the 30 miler. And then you've got the 30 miler, which is obviously very challenging, completely knocks you for a 6. And the endurance course, like I said, to me, not knowing if you're going to pass, if you're not going to pass, the strains on your body that you're going through, obviously tunnels, water and all this sort of stuff, and running, yeah, that was always a whack. But all in all, it's doable. You do your 8 months, you get strong, you build yourself up to it, and you'll get through it. Just stay strong, stay confident, and you'll do it. But that brings me into the end of the video. I'd like to say a massive thank you, obviously, for everyone who's watched this video. Be sure to like it, because it's always appreciated, and obviously subscribing to the channel is massively appreciated as well. And obviously now you've come to the end of the video, I always like to say I've got other Marine videos on my channel, but I do also have other sort of fun videos that is more sort of my life now. Obviously I've done the Marines. I love to bring out more information towards people to help people out, but I also am taking on this little YouTube journey of just having a bit of fun and taking on obviously fitness elements as well, which may also come to help. So feel free, go check those videos out, check out the channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks again, guys.